This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
What is up, guys? Super excited for the show today. I have Kyle Emmerich. He was a fellow Marine. So we're going to get into mentoring. We're going to get into leadership, the things that we learned when we were in the Marine Corps. We're going to get into recruiting as far as helping people now. And I know this is going to be tremendous for your business. There's a lot of principles that you can take from the military and put right into your business. And I do a lot of these shows. So I think this will be exciting. Kyle is from Las Cruces. And he, Kyle, first of all, I got to say this. You were stationed in 29 Palms, right?
I was out there in the desert, man.
What's the hottest you ever saw it there?
Oh, it's probably about 115 to 120.
So was it, did you guys have flash floods there?
Not while I was there. The main weather thing I remember is one winter we did get like a quarter inch of snow and they closed down the entire base.
That's crazy. Yeah. So you work for, because I want to make sure I get this right. You work for the Farm Bureau Financial Services in Las Cruces. Now, are you the manager? Do you run that area?
Yeah, so I'm what they call an agency manager. So basically what that means is the state's kind of split up in quadrants. And, we have about 70 agents in the state, 3 managers. So we each have about 20 to 25 agents, it's kind of spread throughout the state here.
Oh, and before we get into your life, I kind of want to get into a little bit about, so you have probably 20, 25 people, agents that you're leading and mentoring?
Yeah, I have 23.
Oh, okay, 23. How has the Marine Corps, and like I said, we'll get into this a little bit more, but how has the Marine Corps helped you in leading those women and men?
Yeah, so everyone kind of laughs because I'm a little bit of a simple kind of guy. The biggest thing, honestly, is just show up and work hard. And the reason why I say everybody laughs is because it sounds so simple, but not a lot of people do that on a daily basis. 8 to 12 hours a day. But that's kind of one of the early things in the Marine Corps, as I'm sure you know. I mean, you didn't have a choice. I mean, you showed up, you gave it what you had, every minute of every day. And if you didn't, people might die if you're, in combat zones and things of that nature. So it was really easy to adapt to that mindset over here where I just got to be the hardest worker in the room. And I have to get all 23 of the agents that work with me to kind of understand that they need to be the hardest workers in the room too. That's kind of
I love that. It's so true. It's just that simple. It's a matter of putting in the time. So let's start from the beginning. Now, were you raised in New Mexico? Are you from New Mexico originally?
No, I've kind of been all over. I'm from Illinois. Spent most of my life in a farm town in Illinois.
So was it like, did you have a work ethic on the farm? Did you have to get up early? What type of farm was it?
Yeah, so it was a farm town. My first job was actually when I was 14 working for a local farm there, detasseling corn. At 14 years old, you did it in the summers, about 5:15 in the morning. Till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon for $5.15 an hour or whatever it was 20 years ago. But that's kind of what instilled that. And then having good parents. My mom and dad they've always worked hard. My dad's been VP, vice president of sales for lamb and veal processing plants for the past 30 years. So just kind of seeing that, you grow up around it and kind of what you know.
So, I mean, you saw that from your parents, so just like a really hardworking family, and then they encouraged you to work, and then you did the same all throughout high school?
Yeah, exactly. I've been working full time for 19 years now, since I was 14. Yeah. So throughout all of high school, I played basketball, obviously had school, and then I worked 45, 55 hours a week, freshman year, sophomore year, et cetera.
Yeah, and that's something I found with entrepreneurs. I did the same thing. I'd work till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning in a restaurant, and I was working illegally at 14, same scenario. And then they were supposed to, and then once I turned 15, I think I was allowed to work limited, but they would always, pay me under the table and stuff. But Now, when you were in high school, were you making good grades, or were you just kind of going through the motions? I mean, was it boring for you? What was high school like for you?
Honestly, it was kind of a mix. I mean, I got decent grades, but I will say, I mean, definitely boring and underperformed. If it caught my attention more, I probably would have been a straight A type student. Uh, I mean, I wasn't bad, 3.0 or whatever they call it these days. But yeah, definitely boring. It didn't keep my attention most of the time. I mean, and that's why I went to the Marine Corps. I graduated. I could have went to college, but I was like, shit, man, I don't want to spend the next 4 years doing this again. Maybe after the Marine Corps, but that's kind of why me and a couple buddies enlisted was we didn't want to go through that all over again.
Now, how old were you when you began to kind of get the bug for the military?
It was senior year. Definitely started thinking about it. Yeah, some older friends that were, they graduated a year or two before I did that went off to the military. We had a guy in our class that he was National Guard. So he actually went to boot camp like the summer before senior year and was National Guard like our whole senior year. So kind of just talking to him about that. And then one of my good friends, he went to boot camp like the day we graduated. And then when he came back, that's actually when he took us to the recruiter and went there to get information, man. It was me and three other guys. So there was four of us. We're like, oh yeah, we'll go check it out, get some more information, figure out what this is about. And I went home that night and told my mom that I was leaving for boot camp in a few months. I signed up that day.
That's crazy. And how was your parents? Were they for it?
I think they were just because they knew, I didn't. They knew that I wasn't maybe a college guy right away. They probably didn't want me to, live off them for X amount of years. So I think they liked it, but obviously, this was 2007, 2006 actually when I enlisted. So mom probably took it harder than dad, but understandably so.
Yeah, there's always that nervous aspect of it. I know my mom she was the same way, where she was just feeling extremely nervous and, was worried about me. I mean, I ended up going to Somalia, Bosnia, and Haiti. So, I mean, it was rightfully so. But now, whenever you were talking to the recruiter and you were going through that process, it was like you and a bunch of buddies went. What made you choose the Marine Corps?
Well, I knew I didn't want to be, National Guard or anything like that. Um, and I think it was just my mindset. I mean, I knew what the Marines was about. I mean, I knew it was the hardest, branch on paper, anyways, and everybody talks about it, and it's more of a brotherhood and a livelihood type thing, not just like a job or a contract. That's really why we went in. We didn't really we did talk to an Army recruiter, but I don't know. You just talk to the Marine recruiters and you see them and you just get a little bit more impressed. Like, okay, if I'm going to be somebody, I'm going to go through here first.
Yeah, it's always those guys are amazing. The recruiters. If you ever want your son or daughter to go into the military, have them go talk to a Marine recruiter. I think they're probably some of the best salespeople.
Oh, I agree. Well, and our recruiter was a combat engineer, and guess what my job was? I was a combat engineer. That's how dang good he was. He's like, this is what you got to do, man. I was like, all right, let's do it.
So did you look at different MOSs and stuff, or was that just kind of like, this is what you're going to do?
That was the main thing. I mean, obviously we talked about grunt, but I didn't want to be a grunt. I wanted to do something where I knew I wouldn't like have those experiences outside of the military. Combat engineer, we played with C4, TNT, all kinds of explosives and wars. I'm not going to do that out here in the real world. But then also there were some skills that could translate over to the real world. So that's kind of what got me hooked and was like, okay, this is going to be fun and kind of practical. Not that I post stuff up these days, but.
Yeah, I mean, because that's something that, I always ask people like why, at that age, why they chose their MOS, like what was the reason behind it? Mine was my dad was that. So I figured that, I should do the same. He was in Vietnam. So I was just like, well, this is what I need to do. But I was the same as you. I couldn't see myself going to college in that, at that time. And I needed to have some discipline and structure. So when you graduated, how many months before you went to boot camp?
So we graduated, must have been May. I enlisted in July and we left January 3rd. So about 6 months. in between.
So, I mean, now in that 6 months time, did they have like a prep program where you're having to do, getting ready for boot camp? Did you have where you're running 3 miles and doing all that?
Yeah, so we were in, I worked full time throughout that entire process too, but it was the DEP program. And yeah, we met, I can't remember how often it was, once a week or whatever. And we did outings, PT'd, just to make sure we were in shape for when we actually left. So yeah, we definitely did the 3 miles, pull up exercises, things of that nature.
Yeah, and that's the delayed entry program
Yeah.
for people that want to know. So you can actually, if it's going to take a certain amount of time, then they will start to condition you. So, was it a rude awakening? I mean, because obviously, did you go to South Carolina, or did you go to California?
No, we went to California.
Oh, okay, yeah, same here. So it was in San Diego.
Yeah.
So, how was that? Was it like when you came off because it's proverbial, did you come off the bus and the yellow footprints?
Yep. Came off the bus, the yellow footprints, it's all a blur from there.
Yeah, I remember some things of boot camp, but then some things it's like so funny how you mentally block a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, no, I agree. And definitely some good brotherhoods throughout boot camp, that was built. It was probably a little different. I went with three of my best friends from high school, and we were all in the same platoon and everything at boot camp. So that made it, I don't know if that made it easier. I mean, it made it easier to like get by, but we definitely probably got picked on a little bit more because, something would happen and you look at your buddy and start laughing and, that had never went over well. So I wouldn't say it made it easier. It just made it funner, I guess.
Yeah, I know, and that was something, there was always these ups and downs, the emotional side of things. Now, did you get the hang of it after a while, or was it, for me, it was really, really tough. I mean, I think for me, it was more than the physical part was easy. I'm just a big ape. I'm like 6'2" and 225 pounds. So the physical part was easy for me, but it was the mental part. I think all the games that they played with you.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of the opposite. I mean, I'm not a tiny guy or anything, but well, I guess when I went through boot camp, I'm 5'10". I think I graduated at like 148 pounds or something. Like physical wasn't hard, but the mental was definitely easier for me. I mean, I think it always kind of has been. Is as soon as you can control your mind and your brain and understand what's going on outside of that, everything else just kind of starts clicking pretty quick.
So I mean, you like caught on to the system that they were doing, and then it was just kind of like a game to play for you.
Yep, exactly. You pick on or you catch on to the things that they were doing, and then you're like, oh, okay, and then it just kind of a game of chess.
Yeah, I wish I would have thought about that. I was so young and naive, that I'd like fully bought into everything.
You're like, oh my god, what's happening? All right, all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was that guy. I mean, I did everything to the T, did really well, but it was like I was like, "Oh my goodness, they're mad at us right now, and I didn't do anything wrong. What's going on?" It was kind of that thing.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
And I remember, there was definitely times, the IT, they had IT up there on the front deck and everything, and I mean, I remember there was days me and some of my buddies, I mean, we would just walk up there and join whoever was getting IT. And just for moral support, usually they're ITing somebody, right, that's having a hard time. Maybe they're not the best physically fit. So, I mean, we kind of knew the game. We're like, okay, we'll play the game too. You got told that line, obviously. Can't go in there being a jackass or anything.
What do you think was one of the things that got you through boot camp? Especially on the mental side. What do you think was the biggest thing that got you through?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'd say one of the big things was knowing what was next. Hey, as soon as this 13 weeks is over, you got your combat training and then your schoolhouse training, and obviously, letters from family, parents, siblings, that helped out, knowing that they were in your corner rooting for you.
Did you have a girlfriend at the time or anything?
Um, yeah, at the time I did have a girlfriend.
Yeah, because I know I had one too, of course, high school sweetheart, and so
Right.
he was writing me letters and stuff like that because we could only get mail, and that was like the biggest, did they let you go to church on Sundays? Would they let you do different things on Sunday?
Yeah, so Sundays, I think, if I remember right, we got like a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours at night. And then, yeah, obviously mail time was always good too. I can't remember how often we had that, but yeah, whenever they bring everybody up and mail time, they start passing out everybody's mail. But yeah, Sundays, I've never been a hugely religious guy, but I'll tell you what, that 13 weeks in boot camp, I went to church every Sunday.
Yeah, same. It was just I had to be able to relax. Sometimes I'd fall asleep.
Exactly. You're like, man, they can't screw with me in here.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, it was kind of like a little break. It was awesome. So, on the physical side of things, because you said, we were kind of opposite in that arena. What was some of the things? Was it the run? Was it the pull ups? What began to like wear on you physically?
Yeah, I'd say the constant, I never was a big runner. Um, so the constant PTing, the runs every morning, the hikes, the humps, if you will, they weren't bad. Obviously, the last one kind of sucked. But yeah, I'd say initially probably the running. Pull-ups were hard at first, like just the initial physical things. But then it's weird, once I hit the fleet, I mean, I just worked out a lot more. I maxed out. I think my best PFT was like a 292. I never got that 300, but and run was always something I struggled with. But the pull ups, once I got the hang of that, I always maxed that out. And obviously, I think everybody maxes out crunches with your buddies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of just learning the kipping method and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, the constant running, the constant PTing, being active, all day, every day. Not that I wasn't an active person, but um, I mean, you're active a lot in boot camp.
Yeah, I did I didn't complete it, but I just did here recently, the 75 hard challenge. I don't know if you've heard of that or not.
No, which one's that?
It's where you have to work out twice a day, every day for 75 days straight. You can't drink any alcohol. You have to drink a gallon of water a day, read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, and then take a picture of yourself every day. And that was the part I messed up on. I forgot to take a picture. But it's like this, but it reminded me so much of the mental and physical part, because it's that discipline, where you don't feel like doing something, but you've kind of got to do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, man, that's one of the things I miss about the military is like, for the most part, you didn't have a choice. Out here in the real world, it's like, I'll go to the gym tomorrow, or I'll start that diet tomorrow, or whatever it is. Everybody can keep pushing it off, and that's one of the things I'm thankful for about the military is like it kind of ingrained in people that most of the people that went through, like you got to kind of control that, man. Get on
Yeah,
that.
so whenever obviously you graduated from boot camp, and then you went to, did you go to infantry training, or did you go right to combat engineering training, or what happened to you after boot camp?
Right after boot camp, had some recruiters assistants back in Illinois, and then we went back to San Diego and did MCT, so Marine Combat Training for what was that, 6 weeks I think or something like that. And then from MCT, that's when we went to the schoolhouse out in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. So was MTC still in Pendleton?
Yeah.
And then from there you went to North Carolina?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I was stationed in New River, North Carolina. So I
Okay.
went up to Lejeune multiple times. So when you went to Marine Combat Training, and for me, I went to MCT too. That was a little bit easier because I kind of had gotten the hang of it. But physically, that was pretty tough. Was it tough for you at MCT?
Yeah, I think that one, the physical part was a little tougher. I mean, the rucks were longer, everything was kind of a little bit more demanding. But for some odd reason, I think it was a little bit easier overall too, just because like at that point, you're like, okay, I know what to expect, I know what's going on, what to do, all those things.
Yeah, one of the things that has helped me, and if you could speak to this, is when you want to quit. I don't know how many times, when we called it humping or rucking, whatever you want to call it, but
Yeah.
I don't know how many times you just wanted to quit, and they have a mountain called Mount Motherfucker there.
Yep.
And you think you're almost done, and you think you're almost done. It does this on purpose, and then there's another layer and another layer and another layer. And so many times you want to quit, but you have that peer pressure of those around you, where if you were by yourself, you probably would have quit. What are some of the things that you did mentally, so that you didn't quit?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, when I did want to quit, it was definitely during those humps, especially, what was that last one, like 26 kilometers, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
with, our full gears, about 80 pounds. And um, definitely times through there that you wanted to quit. But one of the reasons why I didn't was I just always went back to kind of why I was even there in the first place. It's you don't sign up for something just to give it, half ass. And I never wanted to be last either. You always try to be first. And it seemed like the majority of everybody that you were with in the military, for the most part, they were kind of on the same page. Like, man, I don't want to be that last person, hurry up, let's go. I want to be that first place. And then one of the things that really helped me not to quit, because you're right, if I was by myself, there was probably be multiple times where it's like, okay, shoot, let's set up camp here for a day or something. Let's chill for a while. What was the people that you got close to? Um, you always kind of got close to somebody with the same mindset as you, and they would never let you quit, and then obviously you would never let them quit either. So I think that's kind of what really helped me just keep moving forward. Was the moment you start getting that mind, you look over and you're like, oh shoot, this guy just, I don't even see him. He's a quarter mile up there. I better get my ass up there, and vice versa.
Yeah, no, I know 100% what you're talking about. The question I have for you is, Kyle, like now, whenever I mean, you have these 23 people that you're in charge of, and, I mean, a lot of them probably have not been in the military. Maybe some of them have. How do you walk them through it when they want to quit, or if, you feel like they're giving up?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge we've faced. One of the hard parts too is like the 23 agents that I work with, they're all independent contractors. So that mindset for the most part is a little different initially. Most of them have that entrepreneur mindset where they're doing things for reasons outside of having a 8 to 5 job and bring home a salary paycheck. They're commissioned, they get paid what they sell. So there's those external motivators that I don't necessarily have to push and drive and help with. But there are obviously times where it's a bad day, week, or month, and it's like, man, what the hell am I doing this for? I didn't get a paycheck last month, or whatever the case may be. And we run into that more often, and that's when really I sit down with them and we just have a discussion. Why did you get into this a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever the case may be? And usually they're the ones that end up talking themselves back into it. They got into it because they wanted to have the freedom and flexibility. They wanted to have uncapped earning potentials. They wanted to be able to coach their kids' soccer game that starts at 3 p.m. that you can't do if you're working at Office Max. Just certain things like that. They start saying those things, and it's like, okay, well, you want to throw in the towel and you want me to go coach your kids' soccer team, or do you want to continue to do those types of things? And then that's when typically, the everything gets turned around for the most part.
Yeah, and that's something I learned in the Marine Corps was, to look at, start trying to, in your head, if you can, kind of become self-aware enough where you start looking at all the positive things about the reason that you're having to go through the struggle that you're going through, and what the outcome is going to be on it whenever you're going through it, and not look at what's happening like necessarily right now. And then the Marine Corps taught me one thing is to take 100% responsibility. If you're fucking up, then that's your fault 100%. So how are you going to fix it? And that's something with leadership, being able to talk to people and sit them down, like you said, and then have them, and that's awesome that you said that, is have them talk enough to where they can see it. Do you facilitate that when you're coaching with them, or how does that go?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have to be the facilitator in that, and typically you can catch trends. Just like in the military, man, you got a down Marine that you can tell, their performance is going down for whatever reasons, marriage life, home life, depression, whatever. You can usually catch those signs, and if you catch them early enough, that's when you bring it up to them. And then that's when the real conversation happens, because then that person across the table from you, they know that you care about them, not what's going on right now that could be negatively affecting me, right? Like my pay vastly depends on how well we do, right? If I wait and see like, oh man, this guy sucks, this gal sucks, now I'm getting paid. I mean, where's my priorities at now? It's not about my paycheck. It's about you, your happiness, how you're doing, right? Let's find the positive. Let's focus on the positive. And sometimes, I mean, I've even had people make pros and cons of this. And hey, if the cons outweigh the pros, then move on, man. Let's part ways. But 99% of the time, that doesn't happen. The pros are always outweighing the cons in pretty much those scenarios.
Yeah, and for me, it's like, especially with salespeople when you're dealing with sales staff, it's this whole idea of it's 100% you. Like if you were at your best, if you were at a 10, physically, mentally, spiritually at a 10, and you were talking to this client or customer, do you think you would sell them? So obviously, if they say yes, then it's like, well, you're not at a 10. So how can I help you get there? What do we need to do that will facilitate that to get you to that level? Because you're telling me if you're at your best, you can sell. So it's not, a lot of times I think everybody wants to go into closes, or they want to go into word tracks, or all those different things, but they don't understand. It's that, like you said, it could be a girlfriend, a marriage, depression, whatever it may be.
Exactly. It's like one of those, you hear people in sales say all the time, a smile when you're on the phone, they can hear that, and it's stupid and it's silly, but it's kind of true. I mean, not necessarily they can hear your smile, right? But they can tell that you're passionate about what it is that you're talking about. I mean, when I got into this, 6.5 years ago, man, I didn't know crap about insurance. I just knew I paid my bill, and if something happened, I'd hopefully be taken care of. And so I didn't get into this for insurance, right? I got into it because what we do is we help people, and our sole job is to put them in a better place than when we met them. If I can do that, perfect. And if you can portray that to every person that you talk to, like, man, I don't give a crap if I make $5 on the sale, if I make negative $5 or $5,000. What I care about is that, Jason, you're properly taken care of, man. And when you can
Yeah.
portray that, oh man, it just opens up 1,000 doors for you.
So like you got done with MCT, and then you went to combat engineering. Will you kind of describe to everybody what that job title is, and what you do?
Yeah, so combat engineer, basically what they do is, I mean, they really are kind of a jack of all trades. And the reason why I say that is because depending on what type of unit you get attached to, you get attached to like a wing unit, you might be doing construction and runway repair. You get attached to a grunt unit, you're going to have a mine sweeper, which looks a lot like a metal detector, and you're going to be in front of the grunts walking with a metal detector sweeping for mines. Um, Bridge units, you build bridges, blow up bridges, breach, things of that nature. So that's kind of why I say jack of all trades. So the schoolhouse was, I mean, we learned all that. We learned the construction, we built camps, tents, um, we blew stuff up. We built our own claymores. We played with TNT. There was a lot of different things that we did.
Yeah, and you had to be ultimately present. I mean, if you're messing with Claymore, or like you said, TNT, I mean, that not only can you hurt yourself, but you can hurt those that are around you.
Yeah, and I mean that school wasn't. I mean, the schoolhouse was probably, looking back, probably the hardest time. I mean, obviously it's a schoolhouse. I mean, you got like actual classwork to do, but then just everything. I mean, we had this freaking mean gunny that was, I mean, I don't know how much is true, but he had like 2 hip replacements, and the guy every morning, man, we'd run 8 to 10 miles like every day. And he's looking back, he was probably 40 or whatever, and hip replacement. He's leading these 19, 20-year-old, Marines on these runs, and he's outrunning everybody. So that was tough. But then even the schoolhouse, I mean, like you said, the danger parts, you play with C4. I mean, there's a lot of calculations. You got to know how far you got to be back, how much, this pound is going to go, what the blast radius is. There's a lot of different things that you had to actually think about and calculate so you didn't kill yourself or anybody else.
No, yeah, and one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize, especially like, and I know in Vietnam and a lot of others, that combat engineers were huge in the amount of. I mean, they were at the front, like you said, they were in front of the grunts a lot of times, in front of the infantry guys. They were, building bridges, or like you said, blowing up bridges. I mean, those were some of the most, excuse me, those were some of the most dangerous jobs.
Yeah, exactly, man. And you kind of hit it on the head. And then, you even, if you did go to country, you deployed wherever. I mean, in the initial, those camps were built by combat engineers. And even then, you had the engineer field, you got utilities, you got what we call the water dogs, and then you got the heavy equipment operators. They were all engineers as well. So, they'd go there, the heavy equipment, build the berms, they'd fill all those bags with sand and everything to get you safe. We'd build the actual camp, utilities, would put up the shower tents, the bathrooms, all that stuff. So it's always funny. The grunts don't like it, but we say engineers lead the way because we were always there first. And then, I know it's shitty, man. We'd always be there first and we'd always be the last ones to leave because we have to tear everything down too.
Oh yeah, I couldn't imagine that. I never thought about that, but that's so true.
Yeah.
So you go to that school, combat engineer school, and then do you get assigned to 29 Palms straight from there?
Yeah. So we actually, there was 10 of us from the schoolhouse and we were, we all went to school together. We got orders like a couple weeks before graduation, and we were going to like someplace right there in North Carolina. But then, like 2 days before graduation, they found out this unit out of 29 Palms was deploying in like must have been 9 months or so. So they pulled all of our orders and assigned us all to the squadron out there in 29 Palms, and we were actually attached to the wing squadron. So we went out there. Have you been to 29 Palms?
Yeah, I have done training there.
So you probably did training at like Camp Wilson or Mojave Viper.
Yeah, I think so. This was back in the 90s, so I'm trying to remember what the name was. I know that there was extremely hot. I
Yeah.
do know that. And it was dry. Like I wasn't used to it being that dry coming from North Carolina.
Oh yeah, man, it's real dry, especially compared to there. But yeah, man, straight out of school, we went out there to 29 Palms, and then we deployed about 9 months later. And I was with 29 Palms the my whole enlistment there.
Where did you guys deploy to?
We went to Iraq in 2008. So
And then were you there for 6 months or?
yeah, we were there from March to October, so 7 months, and then our initial spot was out to Cottam, which is like a big Air Force base out there. Nice little spot actually. But then we did a QRF, which is Quick Reaction Force, and so we went out for about 45 days, and we just threw up some tents in like the middle of northern Iraq. And kind of our main job up there was just to kind of clear the whole northern spot. I mean, every car that drives through, they get stopped and searched, and it was a really good experience. Looking back, it was a good experience. At the time, you're sleeping in 120-degree weather in a tent, and there was no water. I mean, we got a water drop every 3 days, so we were allowed every 3 or 4 days like 3 bottles of water for a shower.
Oh, wow. So what rank were you when you were in Iraq?
That was early on. I was a lance corporal when I was there, and then as soon as I got back, I was a corporal, so E3 and then an E4.
Yeah, which a lot of people don't realize. Being a lance corporal, it kind of you start. Did you have leadership roles then as an E3?
Not too much, a little bit on convoys, assistant convoy leaders and A drivers and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, if I was more tenured, at that point, I was only, we deployed my first year and a half. So usually the more tenured lance corporals, yeah, I mean, they took on a lot more responsibility, which looking back, it's like, man, so weird.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it. I mean, as far as like being that young. I mean, at the time, how old were you? Probably 20, 21?
Yeah, I was 20. I turned 21 when I was in Iraq. I got a non-alcoholic O'Doul's, I think is what I had.
We used to put like Jack Daniels and stuff like that in Listerine bottles because it was brown, the same color.
There you go.
Yeah, so it was always, or have them send. We'd have people say everybody would be getting Listerine bottles in the mail.
That's
Um,
awesome.
Yeah. So what is like, so here you are, so you came back from Iraq, you're an E3. Now you become a corporal. Now that is a leadership role. What were some of the things that happened when you became an E4?
Definitely a lot of changes. I mean, it was, obviously at that point you're a squad leader in some positions, and what was different for our unit is, there was probably, I don't know, for our platoon there was 30 of us that went to Iraq, and we all came back together, and basically, there was 30 or so. Let's just call it 30. I mean, 25 or 26 of us were E4 or higher. There's only like 3 or 4 junior Marines, that do some of the grunt work, some of the dirty work for you. Um, but that's kind of when things turned was a few months later. That's when we got some more junior Marines straight out of the schoolhouse, and that's when everything kind of got uh, more enlightened for me. I got more excited was because you get these new people straight off the bus, right out of the schoolhouse, and it's like, man, I get to mold these people. So that's really when it got super exciting for me.
And it's kind of the same thing that you're doing now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I stepped into this role. I was an agent for about a year, and I had some management experience with a different company, and obviously leadership experience from the military. And I was like, man, as an agent, I get to impact everything that I do, right? Like every client I bring on, I get to do it my way. I get to take care of them. But as a manager, as a leader, I got 23 agents. Now I get to impact myself, all 23 of these people, their families, and every single one of their clients. And that's what excited me was like, I get to take it to like a whole nother level. And that's kind of why I stepped into this role.
Do you think that the Marine Corps and the way they trained, do you think that influenced the way that you train your agents?
I think it did for sure. I mean, especially compared to other branches. I had a buddy that went Air Force the same day, and I mean, he's obviously a good guy. But like, I do feel like I learned a lot more about being a leader from my Marine Corps experience. I'm a huge fan of, let's keep it simple. And like I said earlier, a lot of people laugh because I guess I give simple answers sometimes, but just work hard. And then number two that I always try to do is I just lead by example, and it goes back to when I was stateside in the Marines. If somebody screwed up, you have your leaders that are like, oh, go run or go fill sandbags or go build something, build a sandbag bunker, whatever, right? Go dig a hole. And that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way because in in the time of war, I think the way it's going to work, man, we're going to go do that because I probably got somebody killed if I messed up over there. So what I did over here was I just led by example, man. Like, hey, we screwed up. We're gonna go do this. Let's go do this, right? Like I never once sent somebody like, hey, go build a sandbag bunker, for the next 3 hours in 110-degree heat. No, I took off my Marine Corps blouse and I dug it right there with them. And I think that's how I got a lot of respect. And I think that's hopefully the same thing I'm doing here is and to kind of translate this way too is if I have agents that are struggling, it's not like, oh, you should knock on doors, you should go to commercial, go to your barber, go here, go there. It's like, no, hey, let's go do this. Let's do it together. Let me show you how it's done. Let me show you, my verbiage. Not that there's only one way to skin a cat, right? But let me show you how I've done it, and let's work together. Not like me pointing the finger. Hey, go do this shit.
No, that's so important because a lot of people don't lead by example. They feel like once they become a leader that they can turn around and tell. But even that hard gunny that you said, that had the hip replacement, I mean, he was out there with you guys. So no matter how hard he was, if you knew that he was willing to do everything that you were willing to do, you have to follow that example.
Exactly, man. And then when you do that, like I would have done, I only knew that gunny for however long school was, 2 months or 3 months, whatever it was. Yeah, you would have done anything for that guy. So that's kind of why you do that. And that's not why, but that's one of the reasons. Is then you got a good team, you got good support staff. Hey, let's watch each other's backs.
So then from there, so I mean, you were in the Marine Corps for what, 4 years?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Did you get out as a corporal or?
yeah. So I got out as a corporal, and then like a week after I got out, I guess I was still on. terminal leave. Actually, I had like 60 days, whatever it was. Got promoted to sergeant like a week after I got home. Got like a promotion thing in the mail.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So cool. So, and then you go into insurance. Now, insurance is because I want to. We have a few more minutes left, so I want to kind of get into this and a little bit of leadership. Insurance is one of the hardest things to sell because you're not really selling anything tangible. It's just paper and protecting your future. What why is it why are people attracted to selling insurance, and why is it so why is it for me it seems like it'd be probably one of the hardest things to sell.
Yeah, I mean it is tough. You're right about the tangible. But what I tell people is what's nice about the products that we sell is the majority of people that you know, that you will know, and that you talk to have our products just through somebody else. So,
Mm.
I can go to Starbucks and start, I'm an outgoing guy. I can buy a cup of coffee and sit down and talk to people. And, they drove there today. They might have Geico, Farmer, State Farm, whatever company, right? I need to give them a reason to buy that product for me now. So that's what's different about insurance is like a lot of products, you're like selling the product, right? Like if you're a car salesman, you're like trying to get this guy or gal to buy this car for whatever reason. Here, I'm more trying to get you to buy me and buy my company because product wise, right, they're all very similar. And it's an intangible object. It's a piece of paper that you get in the mail in 3 weeks. Um, so that's typically what we try to do the most is build a relationship first, and then let's kind of show you some products later.
And so is that, because it's so competitive. I mean, in on the insurance side of things, it's so competitive, and like you said, everybody has that product usually. So, do you just have to? Is it like almost branding yourself and then distinguishing yourself? More and building that rapport, and then through rapport, hoping that you do sell a product. How is that process? How do you train your agents to start playing in that competitive arena?
Yeah, I mean, and that is one of the downfalls of property and casualty insurance, auto and home, is it's especially car insurance. It's becoming more and more of a commodity these days, especially with the way that it's marketed. And that's one of the things. That's why I've stuck with Farm Bureau is we're more relationship driven. Like we're not going to be the cheapest 100% of the time. I'm not going to mail you a postcard, and tell you I can save you $586 a year. And that's one of the challenging things is because other companies will, and they might be able to save you money. So where we sell ourselves and where I train people on is first and foremost, we need to build a relationship. We need to show them that we care. We need to look at their current information, and then we need to educate, and then we need to find the opportunity. So, and basically what that means is like, Jason, let me look at your current insurance, right? Let me see what you have. Let me make sure you're properly covered. And then I'm probably going to find some gaps. If I don't, great. And then one of the main things that we kind of train is like, hey, you're underinsured in this area. What I recommend is this. And then sometimes we don't even ask for the sale. We just say, hey, Jason, call your current agent and ask them about this coverage. Ask them about upping your limits to this. And typically what that does is usually about 99, nothing's 100%, but about 99% of the time, I mean, that person's usually upset that their agent never instructed them, never informed them, never taught them about the things I just met you 45 minutes ago, right? And I'm already teaching about this stuff. You've been insured with that person for 15 years and they never told you about this. So typically that's kind of the way it works. But we're extremely relationship driven, man. I worked for a previous company a few years back, and they were more of a numbers company, right? Let's just see how much we can sell. Sell a day. Over here, I expect my agents to make a sale every 4 days, not every day, and that gives us the ability to find the right clients. Which also kind of answer the second half of your question. There's that retention piece that the piece that gets them to stay with me is I'm finding the right clients from day one instead of just let's send out a bunch of crappy insurance quotes with state minimum car insurance, home insurance, life insurance, whatever it may be. We don't do that too much. It's more appointment based, which throughout COVID's been a little bit of a challenge, but we figured it out.
Yeah, I know, and that's something that you learn in the Marine Corps is to be adaptable.
Exactly, man. Adapt and overcome. I used to when I was an agent, right, it was a lot of phone selling, and appointment selling. When I came over to Farm Bureau, right, it's more like what we always coach and train is when you're on the phone with somebody, you're trying to close an appointment. I don't ever want to hear you talk about price, product, because I don't know you that well until I sit down with you and I can get to know you, your family, your kids, your parents, right? Tell me your life story so I can properly recommend a product for you. Because if I don't know any of that, then at that point, I'm just giving you a piece of paper to make sure if you get a speeding ticket, you don't get a no insurance ticket. And that's not what Farm Bureau is about.
I love that because I think a lot of people are eliminating, a lot of companies are eliminating sales people, and then through that process, a good salesperson is needed. And the like I've had bad real estate agents and I've had great real estate agents, purchasing homes, and it's so starkly different. I mean, it's almost, and I would say probably 80% of salespeople just kind of wing it, and try to get by with their personality, but they don't study it and give their life to it as a craft, and they're not looking at serving and helping someone, because that's a premium. If you're going to provide a service for me that is above and beyond what I've even expected, then I should pay a premium for that. But it's so easy to go into, it just being a contract, and it just be about price, and like you said, and it just be about a transaction instead of having this, detailed, specific relationship with someone.
Yeah, exactly. And then I relate to like real estate sales, car sales, some of those other industries sometimes when I talk to people and you got to show people if like what they're paying for, right? Especially in our industry because it's hard to show them when it's an intangible product, right? If you have a car and be like, yeah, you're paying more for this car because it's got automatic locks, moonroof, automatic start, whatever the case may be. This product's a little bit different. So you got to show them inside of you, right? This is why we're paying this premium for this policy. Also, one of the cool things about Farm Bureau that makes it a lot easier once you can get that relationship built is we're a full service multi-line company, man. So we have a wealth management advisor that can do 401ks, Roth IRAs, manage mutual fund accounts, whatever you need. So that's what's nice. And you mentioned earlier, like a lot of companies, they're going away from the sales agent model. Even car lots, especially through COVID. I mean, come look at the car, you want it, perfect. Go talk to the sales manager and buy it. They're eliminating certain commissions, sales jobs, etc. Our industry is doing the same. I mean, you can go online to geico.com and get an insurance policy in 10 minutes. We're not doing that because we feel that the majority of people, they have to and they want to have a relationship with a financial professional, and we are financial professionals. If we don't take care of you, man, it can cost you a lot of money. So that's why we want to make sure we build that relationship with you first.
Yeah, and it's always when you need something the most, I mean, like you call Geico, yeah, you don't know who you're going to get, when a car accident hits or you have a home issue, being able to call someone and have them there for you and available, is that's a premium in a time of emergency. So
Yeah.
I think that's hugely important. Well, we're almost done here, Kyle, but I want to kind of get into a little bit of leadership with you. Just a few things, before we close up for the hour. What are some of the things that you have seen, especially with your agents that especially maybe here in New Mexico, it may be, or maybe you're seeing it everywhere, in doing this with leadership, is that some of the things that people do well naturally, and then some of the things that you have to like coach them through it. What are some of the things? What are some of the weaknesses that you see when you first have a first agent?
I'd say the number one weakness that I see when I work with these agents is them knowing and understanding 100% their own strengths and weaknesses. You know, I,
Mm.
I talk to people and they'll tell you like, and they don't even know they're telling you, right? Like I had one a while back, and this whole time he's telling me, and he was struggling in sales, right? But he's telling me how he loves the service side. He loves helping people, but he struggles on bringing new clients in. But this particular person has a full-time service assistant. So, they're paying somebody to do the thing that they love the most and the thing that they're the best at. So that conversation, I pointed that out, and it was, you need to hire a full-time salesperson, right? Like which is weird in this industry because, we call the service stuff, 10, 12, $15 an hour work, go out there and find clients. But if that's not your strength, all you have to do in this business is hire to your weaknesses and build your strengths. If you can do that, you will be very, very successful. But that's probably the number one thing is people understanding like, oh shoot, that's my weakness. We need to figure that out, and then we need to sharpen our strengths a little bit more. Always sharpen your sword type thing.
And so, like, when you look at, I mean, because I think this would relate to sales in general, but when you look at insurance and you see people's weaknesses, what are some of the things? Do people, is it just like believing in themselves? Like they just have a hard time accepting the role of selling something to somebody? Or are they too shy? What are some of the things that you see?
Yeah, one of the things I see is when things are good, you're good. When things are bad, you ain't doing so well. Your highs are too high and your lows are too low. One of the things I always notice, like when you talk to successful people or people who you may think are successful, they're happy, but they're never, uh, the respectable ones, anyways, are never way up here, like when things are going great, or way down here when things aren't going bad. You ride that wave a little bit, you try to keep it steady. And that's where salespeople struggle is, and I saw it firsthand too. I had to learn, through experience, right? You have a really good month and you're like, oh shit, man, I figured this out. I'm the king, man. I can do this. And then you stop doing what you did to get you those sales, right? You stopped your prospecting, you stopped your quoting, you stopped your cold calling, you stopped your business prospecting, whatever it was. You stopped it because you were getting results. But now a new month started, a new year, whatever the case may be, they're not going to keep coming in, man. People aren't kicking down doors to come buy insurance. You got to
Right.
go out there and find them. So that's kind of what I noticed, man, is, when you're doing well, you kind of let your foot off the gas. And when you're doing bad, you take it so personal. You can't. I mean,
Mm,
we're going to close 25% of the time. So you're going to lose 75 out of 100. We always use, batting averages and talk about the best batters in the league. I mean, you're going to strike out more often than you're going to hit a home run, man. But what are you known for? What do you want to be known for?
Yeah, I love that because you're so right. I think it's those ups and downs. I've seen it. In being a general manager, sales manager in previous positions. It's so interesting to see people when they get that big check and they make an amazing commission and they go out and they blow all their money right off the bat, and then then next thing you know, they have this super high, and then and I've never thought about that. And you're so right. The guys that are just consistently, I mean, if you look over the year after year after year, they just consistently grow. It may not be big, but they are doing a little bit more business, a little bit more business every year. And they don't have those super ups and downs.
Yeah, and sometimes it's so simple. I mean, I have, obviously having 23 agents, you have all across the spectrum, right? But you always have people that are like, oh, what is agent so and so doing? And it's like, man, they freaking work, man. They show up every
Mm.
day, right? They didn't sell one yesterday, and they came in today pissed off, and they're making 10 times as many calls as they did. And those people that do that, they're always the ones that I never see their numbers fluctuate that much. Right? It's 8 sales to 12 sales every single month, and the ones that are asking what that person's doing is hardly doing any sales. They're depressed, they're more negative. I had a scenario a while back actually where this person's no longer here, but every time I talked to them, they were negative, and I'm not with them on every client appointment or meeting or phone call. I'm like, man, I really hope that, I'm fine if you want to be negative with me, right? Let's talk about our frustrations. Let's figure it out. Let's get a game plan, right? Like, let's do that. But I hope this doesn't come out, when you're talking to other people, um, and it did. That's why they struggled. They didn't believe in themselves, the product. It came across, you can tell in their tone of voice. You can
Right.
tell when they talk about it, Oh, well, we're $100 more a year and, they got the same stuff over there. It's like, no, man, they don't have you. Man, they don't have our claims team. They don't have me. They don't have, our call center. They don't have your personal cell phone, right? They don't have any of that stuff at that other company. They have that here. That's worth $100. Show them.
I love that. Yeah, because it's just creating value.
Right.
But if you can't value yourself, then how can you show other people value?
Exactly.
So, Kyle, it's been amazing. Thank you for being on the ABQ Business Podcast. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, are they, maybe they either want to sell insurance or they they want to buy insurance. What's the best way to get a hold of you? I know you're on LinkedIn. Do you guys have a website or?
Yeah, so a few ways. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so look me up, Kyle Emmerich. You can email me, kyle.emmerich at FBFS, so Farm Bureau Financial Services.com. Then also on my LinkedIn is a website, but it's beafarmbureauagent.com/Kyle Emmerich. Then any one of those sources, you can click, contact me, email me, text me. We'll find a way to get in touch.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, we actually met on LinkedIn, and it's Kyle EM. It's like EM and then Rick RICK.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you, Kyle, for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for the invite, Jason. Semper Fi, man.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.